Hey, why are you even here? Can't you just leave already? The bride, Michelle, scrunched up her face as if she was looking at something filthy. Then she waved her hand as if shooing away an animal. I, taken aback, asked Michelle, "Go, leave? Did I do something wrong?" "What? Nothing at all. We don't need someone fat and ugly like you at our wedding. I chose such a beautiful venue, and having someone sweaty and overweight like you would just ruin the atmosphere." I was shocked by her words. Sure, I'm a bit heavier than others, but I'm not unkempt. Of course, I dressed appropriately for the celebration today. It's my dear brother's wedding, who has always supported and believed in my dreams. Though I felt a bit lonely, I had decided to celebrate wholeheartedly. Yet, just because I'm overweight, I'm not even allowed to be part of this celebration? Understood. Then I'll leave. I felt miserable. Clutching the hem of my navy blue party dress, chosen to complement the white wedding gowns, I left. My name is Jessica. I'm turning 30 this year, working and managing household chores. I met my husband George through my brother. I rarely interacted with men due to my job. Even so, due to my introverted nature, I struggled to make even male friends after becoming an adult, let alone think about marriage. But my brother, David, broke through that situation. I remember well when he introduced me to George, whom he met at work, saying confidently, "He's the man I'm expecting you to like." George, a bit timid but kind and understanding of my work, quickly bonded with me. Naturally, after dating for a year, marriage was the next step. Thus, my brother was like a cupid for our relationship. However, his own love life wasn't as fortunate. Even after I got married, he remained single, devoted to his work. He always said it was just a lack of good encounters or timing, but that's just David for you. In some ways inefficient, but a kind, reliable person who looks after others, yet becomes careless when it's about himself. It was worrying to see. I remember when I was contemplating my current job, he said, then I'd be thrilled to support Jessica, and promptly decided on his employment. He had his own dreams and desires, yet he quickly chose to support me when he heard I was struggling. Thanks to him stepping into the industry first, I've been able to continue my dream job even after marrying and having children. Not just marriage, my brother is a lifesaver in my life. So, when I heard he was thinking of getting married, I was naturally surprised. Wait, David has a fiancée? What, is that bad? Not at all, I'm really happy. I shouted excitedly at my brother, who was scratching his head in embarrassment. Then quickly covered my mouth, lowering my voice. What she's like? Someone from the industry? No, a friend introduced us. I think she works at a bank or something. Wow, a hardworking woman, that's great. Who would have thought David would actually settle down? Hey, what's that supposed to mean? Anyway, I'm bringing her home this Sunday. Want to come and meet her? You seem eager. Really? Then maybe I'll leave May with George and come home too. May is probably about to forget what Mom looks like. Stop it, I do rely a lot on George though. She's the woman my brother chose. I had always thought she must be a kind, positive woman who cares about others, but that expectation was betrayed in a way I never imagined. Michelle, I've been dating David with the intention of marriage for the past 6 months. Thank you so much for inviting me to your family gathering, she said as she greeted us. My brother's fiancée was a beautiful woman with a somewhat sharp impression. She glanced at our family with a piercing gaze and then smiled at our parents. Did she just look at me with a cold eye, or is it just my imagination? I tried to dress neatly and simply, not too fancy, as I was meeting the woman who might become my sister-in-law. Did I do something wrong? While I was nervously checking my outfit, my brother, noticing everyone's tension, laughed loudly to lighten the mood. Haha, come on, Michelle, don't be so formal. This isn't a business setting. This is Dad, John, and Mom, Sarah, and over there is my sister, Jessica. Everyone, don't get too tense just because Michelle is beautiful. John, Sarah, Jessica, nice to meet you. See, Michelle, you're too formal. Thanks to my brother playing the mood maker, we somehow made it through the first meal with Michelle. After talking for a while, Michelle's cold expression began to soften, and the mood lightened as we shared childhood memories of my parents and brother. "Excuse me, Jessica, where's the bathroom?" Michelle asked, looking troubled. I quickly stood up to show her the way, smiling. We decided to leave the room together. Perhaps because we were both women, I was pleased that she asked me instead of my brother, and I walked lightly towards the bathroom. But then I heard Michelle's soft laughter behind me. Why, there was something unpleasant about that laughter, as if it were mocking something. I couldn't help but turn around and ask, "Is something wrong?" Even if Michelle was laughing at a memory, her laughter sounded like mockery. "No, it's just that your footsteps are so loud. I found it funny." Oh, really? Yes, I thought it's funny how heavy people have louder footsteps. What? Did she just say something incredibly rude? As I stood there, stunned, Michelle looked at me and laughed mockingly. It was the kind of laugh you wouldn't want to show anywhere. Being overweight must be tough. Just a little walk and you're already out of breath. Oh dear, it's starting to smell. That's the worst. Despite her lovely smile, the words flowing out were insults directed at me. I blinked repeatedly, looking at Michelle in disbelief. "Oh, what do you mean?" I could only ask in a trembling, unsettled voice. But ignoring my bewildered state, Michelle continued. "David works in an entertainment agency, so I expected his family to be glamorous. I was so disappointed to find her sister overweight and unattractive. Or maybe you just don't understand social etiquette. Normally, it's rude to greet your brother's fiancée looking like that. You must have been too busy thinking about food to realize that. The bathroom is over there. Thanks, chubby and ugly." She sneered and threw a twisted smile at me before slamming the door shut. Left alone in the hallway, I was stunned, replaying Michelle's words in my mind. Fat, ugly, and lacking common sense. I couldn't believe such harsh words came from Michelle, who had been having pleasant conversations with my family just moments ago. Sure, I might be a bit larger than others, and compared to the stylish Michelle, I might even weigh twice as much. But that's due to my body type, which easily gains weight, even with little food. I take extra care to stay clean, and I'm sure I don't have the body odor Michelle mentioned. Still, being insulted about my body shape to my face was quite a shock. I involuntarily hugged myself and looked down. "What's wrong?" my brother asked. Maybe he noticed we'd been talking in the hallway for a while. Should I tell him about Michelle's cruel words? No, I can't. I can't tell my happily smiling brother that his fiancée said unbearable things to me. I bit my lip and said, "It's nothing, just some girl talk." I decided to cheat. From then on, whenever Michelle and I were alone, she would barrage me with insults about my looks and weight. But she only did this when we were alone. In front of others, especially my brother and the rest of the family, she never uttered such words. In public, she played the role of a kind sister-in-law towards me. As a result, My brother and the rest of the family seemed to think Michelle and I had become close. The engagement proceeded smoothly, and the only event left was the wedding. There were concerns about Michelle's attitude towards me, but otherwise she was perfect. And my brother, who had always worked for others, was finally doing something for himself. I genuinely wanted to support that. I decided to do everything a family member could do to help with the wedding. I struggled with unfamiliar tasks like practicing the surprise entertainment for the ceremony and creating a welcome board, but I persevered, thinking it was all for my brother's happy memories. Then came the wedding day. Dressed in a navy blue dress chosen to complement the white wedding gown, I was eagerly preparing. My daughter, Maiko, was being looked after by the staff as she practiced being the flower girl. My parents were already taking numerous photos of her adorable antics, so she should be fine for a while. As for me, I was busy running around for the final rehearsal of the entertainment, being called here and there. It's different from my usual work, so I was inevitably flustered. My place is here, and then there is the mic check. Even George, who usually works behind the scenes, was hurrying around in his suit. We were allowed into the venue early as family, and watching it being decorated, I found myself strangely hoping for a good ceremony, even forgetting the conflict with Michelle for a moment. In the midst of finalizing the entertainment details, I was trying to call George, who was nowhere to be seen, when Michelle called me from behind. She seemed desperate, either in the middle of fitting her dress or doing her makeup. I rushed over, thinking there might be some trouble, and was pulled into a dressing room. "Why are you here?" was the first thing she said. "Oh, why?" "Well, whatever. Can you just leave?" I asked Michelle, confused. "Leave? Did I do something wrong?" "Something wrong? There's nothing. We don't need someone fat and ugly like you at our wedding. We chose a beautiful venue, and someone sweaty and fat like you would just ruin the atmosphere." Then she gestured dismissively, as if shooing away an animal. It's true, I might be a bit disheveled from hurrying around for the final entertainment check, but I intended to tidy up before the ceremony starts, and I'm certainly not in an unclean state to be called sweaty. However, according to Michelle, no matter how much I dressed up, it wouldn't matter because my overweight, unattractive presence would only make the wedding unpleasant. "Anyway, having someone like you here would be the worst. Just leave quickly. If other guests see you, I can't believe you're part of the new family. And you didn't even have the decency to stay away from the wedding. Even a real pig would have more sense." Her torrent of insults made my head go cold. I put my mobile phone back in my handbag, my mind blank. Understood. Then I leave. After walking a bit, I got into a taxi and decided to go home. I felt miserably close to tears as I walked, but I desperately held them back. And so, with unsteady feet, I made it back home. Sitting on the sofa without even taking off my stockings, I stared blankly at the clock, which showed the time when the wedding was supposed to start. Come to think of it, I left without saying anything to George or my brother. Maiko should be fine with Mom and the others, but I really should say something to George. As I was pondering what to say, groggily reaching for my mobile phone from my handbag, it suddenly rang loudly. Startled, I dropped the phone. When I picked it up, I saw Michelle's name on the display. Why Michelle? Maybe my brother was using Michelle's phone, I thought as I tapped the answer button. "Come back right now!" screamed Michelle's voice. Huh? But she kept ranting about coming back. I couldn't understand her hysterical shouting, performing and saying it was all a lie. What do you mean? You told me to leave Michelle, right?" "Yes, but that's not what I meant." Interrupting her incomprehensible words, I heard my brother's voice asking, "Jessica? David? Oh, sorry. There is some trouble and I'm at home." "Yeah, I know. Michelle told you to leave, right?" "You knew?" "Yes. George and I heard everything Michelle said to you." This is what my brother told me after that. It turned out that when Michelle had called me, I was trying to call George, who was in the same venue. My mobile phone was still on when Michelle started her tirade, and the call had connected with George. Shocked by the harsh words Michelle was spewing, George had quickly alerted my brother. They both heard everything, Michelle's vile words and my lifeless responses, through the phone. George acted swiftly. Realizing the person being insulted was his wife, he recorded the audio from the call. "So, during the time I was supposed to perform at the wedding, they played that recording instead," my brother explained. George then announced over the microphone, "Today, Jessica, an opera singer and the groom's sister, was supposed to sing a surprise celebratory song. However, the bride, Michelle, drove her away. Please listen to these words." That's right. I'm an opera singer. Most of my career is overseas, so I'm not that well known domestically, but everyone in the entertainment industry, whom my brother had invited, knew me. After all, my brother had entered the industry to support my career, so his contacts were essentially mine. With that audio of Michelle belittling me played in front of them, Michelle must have felt extremely uncomfortable. Even if Michelle's acquaintances didn't know me, they would understand that she hurled terrible insults at the groom's sister and even had her thrown out of the venue. Michelle had returned to the dressing room in a hasty retreat from the wedding and was contacting me to come back. "I didn't know. Nobody told me. And what about it? A pig-like sister is more important than me?" "My sister was just as important to me until a few hours ago, but I can't cherish someone who doesn't respect my family." My brother replied calmly to the shouting Michelle. As I could hear over the phone was Michelle's ranting and my brother's calm responses. A week had passed since the disastrous wedding. My brother and Michelle had spectacularly broken off their engagement. Fortunately, since the wedding didn't conclude, my brother didn't end up with a divorce on his record. As for Michelle, she voluntarily resigned from the bank she was working and returned to her parents' home, as I heard through rumors. Apparently, she had invited friends and colleagues to the wedding, and all of them had heard her unbelievable tirade. Michelle, who had always portrayed herself as a perfect and outstanding woman, was exposed as a fraud after those remarks. Despite pretending to be a kind and gentle woman, her true nature of ruthlessly eliminating anyone who displeased her was revealed, making her feel unwelcome both at her job and in her private life, leading to her resignation. It's unclear what path her life will take now, having not only failed at marriage, but also lost friends and her job. As for me, I'm still busy traveling between domestic and international engagements for work. Every time I sing the piece I was supposed to perform at my brother's wedding, I wonder if the day will ever come when I get to perform it for him. Marriage is about finding the right person. Hoping that a wonderful partner will appear for my brother someday, I continue to stand on stage today.
My dad collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. I need to be with him, so I can't go on our honeymoon. You'll have to go alone. Suddenly, my eagerly anticipated honeymoon was canceled. My husband insists I should go alone, but who on earth goes on a honeymoon alone? When someone appeared in front of me the next moment, I felt my legs go weak. There stood my father-in-law, who was supposed to have been taken to the hospital. "Father-in-law, why are you here?" "My name is Sarah. I've been living with Mark for 5 years, and he finally proposed just this summer. Reflecting back, these 5 years felt long. After dating for about a year, we started visiting Mark's parents' home, and he also had the opportunity to meet my out-of-town parents. Yet he kept saying, "We'll get married once work stabilizes," without making a firm commitment. Eventually, he began jokingly suggesting, "Why don't we just stay like this?" This started to concern me. "Mark, I'm approaching 30. If you're not going to be upfront with me, we should break up." After saying all that, Mark finally proposed to me. We were already close with each other's parents and had discussed everything from what we wanted at the wedding to where we wanted to go on our honeymoon. All that was left was to execute those plans. We'd hold a small ceremony with only our closest friends and family. The only event left was our honeymoon. Mark was going to spend the day at his parents' home to spend some time with them. I had dinner with my parents, who had come from out of town and later returned home alone. I checked the luggage for the honeymoon and sent a message to Mark's phone before I went to bed. "Mark, you've done great today. I'm all set for our honeymoon tomorrow. I'm really excited about our trip to Italy." However, I didn't hear back from Mark. I thought to myself, he must have fallen asleep from exhaustion from the ceremony. I hope he doesn't oversleep for our flight tomorrow. Feeling a little nervous, I eventually fell asleep. The next morning, I was awakened by a call from Mark. "Sarah, something terrible has happened." He started speaking rapidly the moment I picked up. "My dad collapsed and he's been rushed to the hospital. You'll have to go on our honeymoon alone today." "What? What do you mean?" I couldn't help but let out a bewildered exclamation. "But your father was so full of life at our wedding yesterday, wasn't he?" "I'm as shocked as you are, Sarah. I'm going to stay by his side, but you go ahead without me." "Don't be ridiculous. If your father's ill, there's no way I can leave for our honeymoon. Who on earth goes on a honeymoon alone?" I asked for the hospital his father was taken to, but Mark stubbornly refuses to tell me. "If I told you, you'd come to visit, wouldn't you?" "Of course I would." "Dad knows how much you've been looking forward to going to Italy. He insisted that I should still let you go. Please respect his wishes. There's no way I can enjoy myself with everything that's going on. Are you planning to come join me once he's feeling better?" "Of course. I'll come as soon as things are settled here." "Settled? Don't jinx it by saying as soon as things are settled. Please, let me handle things here and proceed to Italy as planned. I'm about to arrive at the hospital, so I won't be able to pick up your calls. Talk to you later." Wait, Mark." Without listening to my attempts to communicate, he abruptly hung up the phone. I tried to call back immediately, but it seemed like he had turned off his phone. With no way to reach him and not knowing the name of the hospital, I couldn't rush to my father-in-law's side. As I stood there, feeling helpless, suddenly the doorbell rang. The moment I opened the door, I felt my legs go weak. Father-in-law? Standing at the door was my father-in-law, who was supposed to be in the hospital after an emergency transport. "Your legs, they're okay. I'm glad." What are you talking about?" My father-in-law looked clueless as I made sure I was not seeing a ghost. "Are you feeling all right?" "Eh? Oh, I drank a bit too much at the wedding yesterday, but I felt great by the time I got up this morning. I'm definitely sober by now, and I was able to drive fine, so I came to pick you up after dropping Mark off." "After dropping Mark off?" "Yeah, you're going on your honeymoon, right? I dropped him off at the station, but then I realized I should have come to pick up you too. Let me take you to LaGuardia." I was quite confused. My father-in-law, who was supposed to be in the hospital, and Mark, who was supposed to be accompanying him there, and drop my son off at the station? Nothing made sense. That's when I realized something. My father-in-law mentioned LaGuardia. If we're going to Italy, we should be going to JFK, not LaGuardia Airport. "You just said you'd take me to LaGuardia, but our honeymoon is in Italy." "Oh yes, that's what I thought too. I was surprised when Mark told me this morning. We've changed at the last minute and decided to go to Alaska instead." Alaska?" The more I heard, the more my mind was filled with question marks. Mark said, "We're going to Alaska." Yeah, he did. He left a note in the car. My father-in-law showed me a post-it that Mark had dropped off in the back seat. It had the name of an inn in Alaska and a flight from LaGuardia to Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport written on it. The moment I saw it, the puzzle pieces began to click into place. "Could you please take me to LaGuardia after all?" "Of course. There shouldn't be too much traffic. We'll probably arrive around the same time as Mark's train." "Thank you so much." Throughout the journey, I couldn't help but reflect on Mark's actions up to now. Whether my hypothesis is correct or not will be confirmed the moment I find Mark at the airport. I thanked my father-in-law and headed into the airport. Near the check-in counter for the flight written on the post-it, I spotted Mark right away. He was arm in arm with a young woman, effortlessly selecting drinks together. I knew it. He had been cheating on me all along. The affair probably started while we were living together. His hesitation to get married was probably due to her. And not just having an affair, but going on a trip with his mistress on the day of our honeymoon. I stood defiantly in front of them. Mark, about to exit the store after buying drinks, saw me, and his mouth fell open. Sarah? What are you doing here?" "Right back at you. Why are you, who should have been at the hospital taking care of your father, at a place like this?" I just came to do some shopping." "Shopping? You came all the way to LaGuardia just to buy a bottle of water?" Yeah, Dad was begging for some airport water." "That's funny you say that because I was just with your father." "Eh?" "Your father came to pick me up in his car. He seemed to be doing great, which was a big surprise." "Oh, that's right. After our call, he suddenly bounced back. His vitality always amazes me." Mark seemed determined to stick to his lie. Amidst my astonishment, a thought crossed my mind. I want to witness the kind of excuse this man will come up with next. "So, who is this woman right here? Where were you two planning on going?" She's the nurse who was in charge of Dad. We're on our way to check out a rehabilitation facility for him in Alaska." This excuse is just too painful to hear. I was dumbfounded and I couldn't help but let out a sigh. "Enough. Your foolish lies are giving me a headache." "It's not a lie. She's really my dad's—" Mark's words were cut short by a voice from behind. "My what?" When I turned around, there stood my father-in-law. "Father-in-law? I thought you headed home." "I noticed something was off with you, Sarah, so I parked the car and followed you. It seems like it was the right choice." With his father before him, Mark, realizing that his lies weren't working, was visibly acting suspicious. In response to his behavior, my father-in-law asked in a stern voice, "So who is this woman?" Well... Just as Mark started fumbling for words, the woman beside him broke the silence. "I'm Amy, Mark's girlfriend." Upon hearing this, Mark swiftly covered her mouth. "Hey, what are you saying? You have to speak clearly, Mark. You don't love your wife. Hurry up and get a divorce with her." Wait, just be quiet." "Why should I? You promised to leave your wife to be with me. Isn't that why you chose me over her today?" "That's because you threatened me by saying if you don't go to Alaska with me today, I'll expose our relationship." "I see, so that's what it is." I coldly told him. "So in other words, you were having an affair with that woman." Then Amy glared at me and retorted, "It's not an affair. Mark and I are serious about each other. He never wanted to marry you." By this point, I didn't even feel like arguing. "That's fine. Do as you please." Leaving the two of them there, my father-in-law and I exited the airport. It was 5 days later that Mark returned home. The doorbell rang, and so I talked to him through the intercom. "Sarah, I can't unlock the door. Can you open it for me?" "Oh, about the lock. I changed it." "You changed it? Why would you do something like that without telling me?" "I don't like the idea of a stranger having a spare key to my home." "A stranger? Are you talking about me?" "Who else would I be talking about? I've already prepared the divorce papers, so just quickly sign them." Wait a minute. Let me in first. We can talk after that." Keeping the door chain on, I passed the divorce papers through the crack. There's nothing for us to talk about. Once you sign the papers, can you leave immediately? Don't be so angry. I've decided to break up with Amy. Huh? What do you mean? Well, she's terrible. I agreed to go to Alaska because she threatened to expose our relationship, and all she did was complain that the inn was old-fashioned and the weather was bad. It wasn't fun at all. So I clearly told Amy I have no intention of divorcing my wife. Please break up with me. I couldn't care less whether you and that girl break up or not. The only choice I have is a divorce, even if you don't agree. Don't say that. Are you angry because we couldn't go to Italy? Well, it's a little late, but shall we go now? Are you out of your mind? How can you even suggest that? I was wrong to think that I could have a reasonable conversation with him for even a second. There's no way a man who cancels his honeymoon and goes on a trip with his mistress has a reasonable thought process. Sign the divorce papers right here, right now. And also, sign this document. I handed him another document through the crack. What is this document? I had prepared this through a lawyer while he was away on his trip. It was a written agreement for the payment of alimony and the cancellation fee for our honeymoon. Look, I'm saying I don't want a divorce. You're the one who wants a divorce, so why on earth do I have to pay alimony? I'm saying I want to give us another shot. Seriously, there's a limit to how much common sense you can ignore. It's evident that infidelity comes with consequences like this alimony. The decision to start over or not isn't yours to make, considering you're the one who cheated. And what's this cancellation fee about? We don't get a travel fee refund because we canceled our trip on the day. Since it was you who caused the cancellation, it's only right that you pay for all of it, isn't it? I told you go alone. Not going was your decision. How could I possibly go on honeymoon alone? Not only that, but you also lied about your father being critically ill to cover up your affair. There's no way I could have gone in that situation. Well, I really wanted to go to Italy with you too, but I was threatened by Amy and had no other choice. You wouldn't want your husband to lose his job because he's exposed at work, would you? She threatened to expose you at work? Yeah, that's right. If she says she's going to do it, she will. It's all Amy's fault. Surely Amy does have a kind of vibe where you can't predict what she might do once she sets her mind to it. Considering she even declared, "I'm his girlfriend," directly to his wife, she must be quite a wild one. In fact, I was relieved. With an opponent like Amy, Mark would self-destruct even if I didn't do anything. All that was left to do was somehow to get him to sign the divorce papers. Pretending to be worried, I deliberately asked him, "Hey, are you sure it's okay for you to be here?" "What do you mean?" "You broke up with Amy, right? Wasn't she angry?" "Of course she was angry, but I'm done with her." "Well, you might be fine, but what about Amy? Given her personality, I wouldn't be surprised if she storms into your office and exposes you." "Indeed, that would be disastrous. I need to go to the office and stop Amy." "Sarah, please, pass me my company key card." "This one?" I pulled out Mark's company key card from his drawer and showed it to him. "Yeah, that's the one." I quickly shook off Mark's hands as he tried to take it through the chain gap. "I'll give you the key card in exchange for your signature on the divorce papers and the payment agreement for the bill." "But..." With this, Mark would probably agree and sign. "Have you decided? You better hurry. Amy may beat you to the office." "Ah, all right." Reluctantly, Mark signed all the documents and passed them through the door gap. "Here, this is good enough, right? Hurry up and give me the key card." Once I handed over the key card, Mark ran off, heading towards the office. I went to the courthouse to submit the divorce papers as well as hand the signed payment agreement to my lawyer. It was a relief that at least the money issues had been sorted out. The next day, I received a frantic call from Mark. "Hello?" "Ah, Sarah. What do you want? We are legally strangers now. We have nothing to talk about." "Wait, don't hang up on me." Mark pleaded desperately. Feeling a little curious about what happened, I decided to listen to his story. "So, what do you want?" "I was called by the board when I got to the office today. Everyone knows I had an affair even though I got ahead of Amy. Isn't that weird?" "Oh, that's because I told them." "What? You told the board?" Well, I felt sorry for them because they came to our wedding, but we got divorced so soon. You seemed busy with Amy, so I decided to explain the reason for our divorce to our guests. Guests? You mean not just the board? You told everyone at my office? Yes, when I told them my husband preferred a cheatcation over our honeymoon, everyone was appalled. But how am I supposed to face everyone at work going forward? You don't have to hide your true self anymore. Isn't that a good thing? Huh. Don't mess with me. You ruined my life. I should be saying that to you. I wish I could reclaim the 5 years I wasted on someone like you. When I raised my voice, he had nothing more to say. Why don't you just be with Amy? If her feelings for you are so strong, wouldn't she support you even if you quit your job? No way. Nothing good happens when I'm with that woman. The only one who can support me is you, Sarah. Well, nothing good happens when I'm with you. If you want support, you should think about other people's feelings a bit more before you act. Yeah, I truly regret it. So let's try again. No chance. How about reflecting, turning over a new leaf, and getting back into the dating scene? Oh, and maybe find a job first. Sarah, don't abandon me. You're the one who betrayed me first. You'll just have to live with your regret. I ended the call abruptly. After that, it seems Mark returned to his parents' house to borrow some money a few times. But my father-in-law, who had been made out to be gravely ill without him knowing and moreover was used as an excuse for Mark's infidelity, was furious. Eventually, he cut ties with Mark. Mark found it increasingly uncomfortable to be at his company and ended up quitting. His job hunting didn't go well, and it seems he's barely making a living by working part-time at a convenience store. On the other hand, I moved into a new home with the alimony from Mark. Even though I changed the door locks, it felt uncomfortable living in a place my ex-husband knew about. Mark's parents helped me move. They probably saw it as a way to atone for their son's misdeeds. I still occasionally chat as well as have meals with them. I won't get back the 5 years I spent with Mark, but I'm going to find a better man next time.
Hey, why are you acting like it's normal to show up? Auntie, I told you to skip my wedding. My niece sneered as she asked me not to attend her wedding. Ever since my brother passed away 11 years ago, I had raised her like she was my own daughter. But there was a reason she suddenly started hurting such harsh words at me. My name is Effie, and my brother, Jason, was 12 years older than me. Jason was a kind soul. When we were young, he'd hold my hand as we ran errands, help me practice riding my bicycle, and shower me with love. The year I entered middle school was also the year my beloved brother got married and moved out. I remember Jason and his wife's wedding being full of joy. I clapped so hard my palms ached. The following year, a baby girl was born to Jason and his wife, Mary. Being the youngest in the family, I was thrilled to have a little sister-like figure in my life. We named her Heidi, and I loved her as much as my brother had loved me. Even after Heidi was born, my brother and his wife continued to dote on me, and from middle school to high school, I frequently visited their home and spent time as a part of their family. While sitting at lunch one day, I thought to myself that I hadn't seen Heidi in a while. I was now 27 years old and working for a major fruit wholesale company, directly dealing with fruit farmers for various regions. I was not initially familiar with agriculture, but I learned a bit each day by listening to the voices of the producers, and I was now a leading staff among the employees, trusted with guiding my colleagues. One stormy day, I received sudden news that shocked me. That day, a typhoon was approaching, and we finished work a bit earlier than usual. Still, the weather outside was incredibly violent during my commute home, with gusts of wind so powerful they threatened to carry me away. It was on such a stormy day that my brother, under the orders of his boss, had been forced to go out on sales rounds. Jason was very earnest and hardworking. Even on that day, he was trying to make sales even in the adverse weather and didn't slack off. As he walked through the strong wind, a sign from a building fell and struck him directly. I heard about my brother's death, and I somehow managed to get my trembling legs to take me to the hospital. By the time I arrived, everyone was already there, and my parents were hunched over, crying silently. Seeing my parents crying and the painful sight of my brother, I couldn't help but shed tears, even though I still couldn't believe what had happened. Even though I understood the situation, the reality was too hard to accept. I sat next to my brother and cried. I noticed Mary and Heidi, Jason's wife and daughter, looking as if they were in a daze, not sobbing but simply staring blankly at the wall. Thinking it best to leave them be, I felt so sorry for them. From then on, we supported each other as a family even more than before. Mary, who is currently on leave from work, was a part-time worker within the scope of dependent support, and she will need a job in the future to sustain her life. My parents and I decided to support Heidi and Mary's future, including her re-employment, with all our might. About a year after the funeral, Mary, who had returned to part-time work, decided to move because the rent was becoming too much for her current income. She had received compensation and workers' compensation insurance from Jason's company due to the accident at work, and of course, we agreed with Mary's prudent decision. But on the day of the move, when we went to help, we found only Heidi crying in the somewhat tidied room. Heidi, holding a letter that said her mother couldn't raise her on her own, was only 16 years old. It seemed that Mary had called us to help with the move to ensure her daughter was taken care of after she left. Reading the letter, I felt a tightness in my chest, wondering if Mary had been so anxious that she wanted to run away after Jason's death. From the contents of the letter and what Heidi told me, it seemed that Mary believed it would be better for Heidi to be raised by our family than by her, who was economically unstable. Although it said she was thinking of Heidi first, what she did was equivalent to abandoning her high school daughter. Of course, I was angry at Mary, and we even went to search for her at her parents' house. However, the people who came out of the house were a family we didn't know, and we learned that not only Mary, but also her parents had moved. We contacted Mary's relatives, but there was no family willing to live with Heidi, who was a high school student and had the prospect of significant expenses for college. As a result of our discussions, we decided to take care of Heidi in my house with the support of my parents. Despite the difficult times, Heidi smiled and said, "Effie, please take good care of me." And I hugged her tightly. 11 years have passed since then, and Heidi graduated from college and found a job at a local company. When she brought up a serious conversation, I felt the passage of time and nodded. "You're 27 now, after all." Seeing that, Heidi blushed a little and said, "Effie, I'm getting married." She met her boyfriend through a friend, and he was 1 year older than Heidi. And he seemed like a gentle and fine young man from the pictures. According to Heidi, he really cares about her. And although he is usually reliable, he can be a bit off at times. And she likes that part of him too. I was really happy and repeated congratulations so many times that Heidi was amazed. The man seems to be quite busy, and I haven't met him face to face yet. Heidi would try to set up dates for me to see him, but it always falled on days that I was busy. But in spite of her boyfriend's busy schedule, he actively participated in the wedding preparations, and Heidi seemed truly happy. When they shared with me that their ideal plan was beyond their budget, I remember my brother's wonderful wedding. I wanted Heidi to have the most memorable wedding, one that would make her happy for the rest of her life. I provided financial support as much as possible and looked forward to a ceremony filled with Heidi's dreams. On the long-awaited wedding day, as it was time to leave, I urged Heidi to prepare and made my final check on my belongings. I couldn't afford to make a mistake at my daughter's grand event, so I checked multiple times before finally setting off. As I followed Heidi down the hallway, I was already filled with so many emotions. Just the sight of her in her wedding dress was enough to make me tear up. I thought that both the groom and his parents, as well as my late brother in heaven, might laugh at me if they saw me crying so much. Still, I found these moments of contemplation to be a joy. Just as we got to the front door, Heidi turned around abruptly. She smiled gently at me and said, "Don't come, Auntie." "Huh?" "I'm telling you to not attend my wedding, Aunt Effie." I stared at Heidi, unable to comprehend what she had just told me. She burst out laughing at my confusion. "Why do you think you have the right to attend my wedding? No matter how much you did for me, to replace my mother, you're still my aunt, an outsider, right? There's no way I can introduce you as my mother to my guests." The words spoken by my niece, whom I had lived with and cherished for over 10 years, were shockingly hurtful. Indeed, I am not her biological mother. No matter how much time has passed, Heidi never called me her mom. The reality that to Heidi, her only mother was Mary, finally hit me again. I was left speechless by Heidi's words, which she uttered with a smile. There was a moment when I thought, despite having raised her this far, but I realized it was a one-sided and arrogant sentiment. It is indeed regrettable that I cannot witness my daughter's grand event. But if this is for Heidi's happiness, I will do as she says. Suppressing my feelings, I told her that I understood and gave her my blessings and decided to absent myself from the wedding. Several hours later, Heidi returned home while I was still recovering from the shock. She came into the living room laughing cheerfully, and to my surprise, behind her was Mary, who had disappeared 11 years ago. "Long time no see, Effie. You've aged a lot." Mary, who made quite a light-hearted entrance, extended her hand towards me the moment she saw my speechless face. "I'm sure you know that my daughter got married. Give us a gift. $10,000 will do. You'll be down to offer Heidi that amount, right, Auntie Effie?" Her red lipstick-clad mouth curled into a smirk. Heidi, standing next to Mary, echoed her mother's words with a similar smile. As they urged me to cough up the money quickly, the two started revealing a shocking truth. In fact, Mary's disappearance was a scheme to freely spend the insurance money and the funds from my brother's company. Mary, who had been working part-time and left the household finances to my brother, seemed to have completely changed after suddenly coming into a lot of money. Although she had never been poor, she became stingy about spending the money she had acquired, even on her daughter. Once she realized that she could control everything, her greed led her to use me, a single woman with a stable life, to raise Heidi so she could save on major expenses like college tuition. And terrifyingly, this all was a farce that Heidi was aware of. Only our family thought Mary had disappeared. She and Heidi were secretly contacting each other on their phones to prevent us from finding out, and they eventually started meeting once a month. When Heidi became a college student, her spending increased dramatically, and I heard she had started a part-time job, but in reality, she was receiving pocket money from Mary and hanging out. For Heidi, who was in her partying phase, Mary, who gave her money and let her do as she pleased every month, was undeniably the best mother. That's why Heidi coldly laughed. She deliberately refused to call me mom, knowing how much I loved her as my daughter. After Mary finished revealing the truth about her disappearance, she laughed mockingly and said, "Oh, did you perhaps use up all your savings and can't afford a gift anymore? But well, it was a more lavish ceremony than expected, so I'm proud as a mother who supported her financially for her wedding. Right, Auntie?" Mom, you're so mean. From now on, you should say for yourself. I absolutely won't take care of you after your retirement. It was fun being your pretend daughter, but bye-bye now. The two of them laughed heartily, stating that they would take the wedding expenses as a combination of a wedding gift and severance payment. They declared to cut off ties with me and left the house, claiming to attend their after party and dinner with friends. Left behind, I was too overwhelmed by shock to comprehend the events of the past 11 years. About 30 minutes later, my parents arrived. They had been shocked at the wedding when Mary appeared as Heidi's mother, but didn't want to ruin their granddaughter's big day, so they stayed put until the ceremony ended. Afterwards, they had been looking for Mary. Unable to find her and unable to reach me, they decided to check on me at home. Seeing my parents, I broke down in tears. When I tearfully confessed everything about Heidi and Mary's scheme, my parents were furious. However, even if my parents wanted to talk directly, it seemed that Heidi had already switched off her phone and we couldn't reach her. We could have tried to locate Heidi through Jason's family, but we had raised Heidi because we wanted to. Confronting them would make us feel better because we never expected anything in return. We could have hired a lawyer to claim back my money, but I just didn't have the courage to sue my own daughter, whom I had cherished and raised for over 10 years. After discussing the situation, we decided to let it go, as they wished. We decided to sever our ties and bury everything in the past. Once free from the situation, I took the bold step of resigning from the company I had been working for and started my own fruit wine manufacturing business. I used domestically produced fruit that could be sold due to irregular shapes or fruits that were partially damaged due to weather conditions to develop and produce my products. My new venture, which I started with the idea of reducing fruit waste while still working at my previous company, gradually gained support from not only farmers but also various supporters due to the growing concern about food waste. Though it was challenging as I embarked on this new journey, the connections I made during my corporate career helped me immensely, and I made steady progress. The business that initially ran at a loss slowly started to increase its sales over 3 to 5 years, and the consistent growth made it a company to watch in the industry. One day, Heidi suddenly visited my office. She was already crying when she arrived and ran towards me as soon as she spotted me. Surprised, but not wanting to cause a scene, I took her into the reception room. Effie, I'm really sorry for everything. I've reflected on my actions and I need your help. I'm still like a daughter to you, right? After all, we lived together for such a long time. I'm really in trouble, Effie. Please help me financially. A woman, now well over 30, sobbed like a toddler. A receptionist who Heidi seemed to have pushed past arrived out of breath with several other staff members, all trying to drag Heidi out of the office. Watching this scene, I felt disheartened. She was, after all, after my money. According to Heidi, by the time Mary had appeared before me, she had almost exhausted all the money she had. Unaware of this, newlyweds Heidi and Jason expected support from Mary and willingly invited her to live with them. Initially, their life together seemed to go well, but everything changed when they built a new house. Heidi's husband took out a hefty loan to build a house with unique architectural features, expecting his mother-in-law to pay for it. Heidi wanted a kitchen with the latest equipment, and Mary, assuming her son-in-law was well off, chose the best from wallpapers to lighting for her room. Their loan turned out to be a heavy burden as everyone was relying on someone else's money. To make matters worse, their lifestyle was beyond their means, and Mary's money was already depleted. Even so, Mary, claiming to have given Heidi enough pocket money, started asking for money and never worked. This drove Jason to gambling out of stress from his mother-in-law's outrageous behavior. Unbeknownst to Heidi and Mary, Heidi's husband even accrued debt under their names, leaving their household finances in shambles, regardless of how much Heidi worked. We're now trying to sell the house as his parents suggested, but we can't find any buyers. Mom gets fired every time she tries to work, and both my husband and I are exhausted from working overtime every day. You're the only one I can rely on, Effie. If I'm not happy, Dad wouldn't be able to rest in peace either, right? Heidi, desperately appealing to me, reached her hand out while being escorted by my staff, smearing her face with tears and snot as she asked for money. I was slightly relieved to find that my heart was unmoved by this spectacle. The matter of this mother and daughter had firmly become a thing of the past in my mind. Finally, I broke my silence. Do you have an appointment, ma'am? Our company is not a financial institution, so we cannot lend money to strangers. If you're in trouble, please consult a bank or consumer finance company. Stunned, Heidi was lost for words when I turned back her own phrase. Stranger. That one had pushed me to the abyss of despair. Maybe she thought that if she cried and pleaded, she would get help. I followed my staff and led Heidi to the company's entrance. When she still wouldn't budge, I gently pushed her shoulder, guiding her a step outside the entrance. Realizing that I was never going to be her ally, for the first time, Heidi called me Mom. I don't have a daughter, I said. My words must have struck her hard as she turned white and ran away. After that incident, I started receiving spam texts from Heidi and Mary, which all centered around the dire financial situation. I ignored them all, but they persistently requested money or a loan. Seeing this, it's clear that they are struggling under a crushing debt. It would be a nuisance if they call my company's front desk, even if I block their calls. So I'm receiving a bunch of texts, but I have no intention of ever replying. If they ever send something to my company, I might sue them for business obstruction. Finally recovering, I've decided to move abroad to expand my business and study to make better wines. It seems I won't have to face those two for a while, and with anticipation for my new environment, I'm dedicating myself to work every day.
Suddenly, the relationship between my husband and our daughter took a turn for the worst. That was when my husband's infidelity came to light. In the midst of this worst-case scenario, my husband, John, made an unthinkable decision. I won't be attending Emily's graduation ceremony. On the day of our daughter's graduation, my husband took off on a trip with his mistress. I couldn't forgive him. Prioritizing his mistress over our precious daughter? Unbelievable. My name is Lily. I'm 37 years old. My husband and I have been married for 10 years, but our relationship is a bit complicated. We have a daughter, Emily, who is not biologically related to me. Emily is my husband's daughter from his previous marriage. She was only 5 years old when we got married. Before we got married, while I still prioritized work, John proposed an idea. How about you become a stay-at-home mom once we're married? A stay-at-home mom? I travel a lot for work, right? Emily is still young, and so I've been leaving her with my parents, but after we get married, you'll be her mom, so I'd rather not rely on my parents too much. That makes sense. Your parents are getting older. That's why I want you to become a stay-at-home mom and take care of Emily. I see. Okay, I understand. As per his request, I resigned from the company I've been working for. Upon getting married, I became a full-time mother. It's not that I wasn't anxious about becoming a mother. After all, my husband's previous marriage ended because of his ex-wife's infidelity. I was worried about how young Emily would perceive me. However, despite my worries, Emily's friendly nature allowed us to bond quickly. Honey, let's draw together. Really? I love drawing. After we finish drawing, we can go shopping together. Let's go. I want to help you prepare dinner too. Thank you. That makes me very happy. I've been doing my best to build a genuine mother-daughter relationship. The first time she called me mom, tears came out of happiness. Day by day, as I spent time with my daughter, my love for her grew deeper. Blood ties didn't matter. I saw her as my real daughter, and I continued to pour my love on her. Before I knew it, she was 15 years old, already an 8th grader. Perhaps it was the onset of adolescence, but I had started to feel a slight distance between us. Previously, she would always be home by 6 p.m. at the latest and would let me know if she was going to be late, but recently she's not often home until 8 p.m. That day, too, she arrived home past 9 p.m. with no prior communication. Welcome home. You came home late, didn't you? Dinner is ready. I'm back. Is Dad coming home late again today? Seems like another day of working late. Come on, let's go ahead and have dinner. Okay. Just then, Emily murmured, You know. What's wrong? Well, you see. Yes? Never mind. It's nothing. Upon saying this, Emily went quiet. What just happened? She was definitely about to say something, wasn't she? Why did she stop midway? While I was concerned about her attitude, I knew it was a challenging age for her. I decided not to interrogate her, but to wait for her to talk to me voluntarily. Then, one day, when I got back from shopping, I found my husband at home earlier than usual. Furthermore, he was having a heated argument with Emily. I quickly intervened between the two. John, why are you raising your voice so much? Calm down. Lily, what happened? You've never shouted at Emily like this before. My husband awkwardly looked away and muttered, It's nothing. It can't be nothing. Is it about school choices? If so, why don't the three of us discuss it together? I said it's nothing. You're being too persistent. Just leave it. I'm going to take a shower. Wait a second. He quickly left the living room. Feeling the awkward atmosphere, I couldn't help but ask Emily, what happened? Nothing. Nothing? It's nothing. Emily, please talk to me. Something must have happened for it to escalate to a fight, right? Just leave me alone. It's none of your business. Wait. Despite my calls, Emily retreated to her room and didn't come out for dinner. From that day on, Emily's behavior changed dramatically. She spent a lot of time in her room and barely spoke to me or her father. While I knew I had to do something, I didn't know how to approach the situation. As I waited for things to cool down, I decided to have a conversation about it with my husband. It's about Emily. Don't talk to me about her. What? Wait, what are you saying? It's about that fight from the other day, isn't it? I've decided I'll only be involved with her at the bare minimum as a parent. What? Don't be so irresponsible. Emily must be struggling with something. I don't care. She rebelled against me. What's that supposed to mean? Despite my repeated inquiries, he refused to explain why they had argued. Eventually, my husband made a statement that made me question my own ears. I won't attend Emily's graduation ceremony. What? Wait a minute. A middle school graduation ceremony is a once-in-a-lifetime event? I don't care. I've decided not to go, so you go alone. No way. No matter how much I tried to persuade him, he refused to listen. I tried to invite him multiple times after, but he remained adamant about not going, consistently refusing. It's her graduation ceremony, for goodness sake. I don't want to upset Emily. I have to somehow convince him to attend. As I was waiting for the right moment to bring up the conversation again, something happened. While cleaning my husband's room as usual, I found an envelope wedged in a gap in his bookshelf. When I opened the envelope, I found 2 round-trip tickets for a train to Chicago. Why were there 2 of the same tickets? If it were a business trip, he wouldn't need 2, would he? That's when I realized. The departure date printed on the ticket was the same day as Emily's graduation. I had a bad feeling about this. I immediately hired a private investigator to confirm my suspicions. A few days later, my fears were confirmed. It was revealed that my husband had been having an affair behind my back. The investigator laid out a series of photographic pieces of evidence and calmly explained the findings. Well, it appears your husband is indeed having an affair. The other woman seems to be a junior colleague from his company. I see. I never noticed because he's been working late and traveling a lot for work. I hate to break it to you, but during our investigation period, not once did he work late. Every day he was either at the woman's house or out dining with her. I see. It seems he's planning to take a week's trip to Chicago with this woman. At that moment, both trust and affection for my husband vanished into thin air. I couldn't believe it. Not only was he having an affair while having a family, but he was also planning a trip with his mistress on our daughter's graduation day? I absolutely can't forgive this behavior. When I got home, I started looking for a new place to live so I would be ready to leave at any moment. I also made the decision to return to the job I'd once quit. I'll have the capability to thrive in any situation as long as I have a new place to live and a job. That's when I had a sudden realization. That is, none other than the presence of Emily. To be honest, I think of her as my real daughter and I love her from the bottom of my heart. Even if I were to get a divorce, I want to keep custody of her. But would she choose to stay with me, a non-biological mother? Wouldn't it be best for her to be with her father, who she has been with since she was born? Given the recent infidelity of my husband, I had become pessimistic about everything at this time. I had no confidence that she would choose me. At worst, I had to prepare myself for living alone. Since then, I have decided to cherish the time I had left with my daughter. On my days off, I invited her to go shopping, went to cafes together. Even if I get a divorce and we get separated, I'll make sure to hold on to the memories of these days. I engraved the joyful moments with her into my heart. While eating out together, I decided to casually bring up the topic of her graduation ceremony. Your dad said he can't make it to your graduation ceremony. Oh, really? I'm sorry. He seems to be busy with work, but I promise I'll be there. Okay, I'm fine with just you. I don't need anyone else. As expected, Emily's reaction was rather indifferent. Seeing my own daughter like this, I couldn't help but feel indescribable emotions. Graduation day has arrived. When I woke up in the morning, my husband was already gone. I guess he went on a trip with that mistress. Of course, I attended the graduation ceremony alone. As I watched my daughter receive her diploma, tears welled up in my eyes. She was so small when we first met. I don't want to let her go. My feelings were growing stronger, but I kept telling myself, it's time for me to decide, and forcibly suppressed my emotions. After the graduation ceremony ended smoothly, we returned home. Before my husband comes home, I'll tell Emily everything and leave the house. I had decided that, but when it came to it, I couldn't bring myself to start the conversation. As I hesitated for a moment, my daughter spoke up. Hey, Mom, even if we're not biologically related, you're still my mom, right? What? Despite being taken aback by her words, I confidently responded, What are you saying? Of course I am. I'm always going to be your mom. Yeah, I thought so. I'm glad to hear that. The moment I saw her smiling warmly, my heart instantly felt lighter. Now's the time. With that thought, I made up my mind and decided to open up and share everything. Emily, I'm thinking of divorcing your father. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. What? I was surprised at how easily she accepted the idea of divorce. Are you okay with it? The divorce, I mean? It's okay. You found out about his affair, didn't you? Wait, did you? Yeah, Dad's having an affair. How did you? I happened to witness his affair that day. When I confronted him, we ended up in a big fight. That day she was referring to was the day that they had that loud argument some time ago. She had coincidentally spotted her father and his mistress in public and confronted him, which ended up turning into a heated argument. My eyes started to burn, and my vision became blurry. Was she carrying this burden all by herself this entire time? The thought made my chest tighten with unease. Holding back my tears, I looked Emily straight in the eye. You can choose who you want to be with. It's your decision. What are you talking about? I am definitely going with you. Are you sure? Of course. I don't need a dad who cheats when he has a family at home. He's not worth being around. Emily, you're my only family. I tightly embraced her. That's how it was decided that I would take her in. Our actions following this were quick. We somehow managed to complete the move before my husband returned from his trip, carrying our belongings into the new house we'd already contracted. Since I had everything planned ahead, the process ended up being quicker than I expected. 1 week later. Seemingly noticing the divorce papers on the desk, my husband called. Hey, Lily, what the hell is this about these divorce papers? They mean exactly what you think. Let's get a divorce. Are you still mad about me missing the graduation ceremony? It was because of work. I had no other choice. I was utterly disgusted with my husband, who even now was still trying to play dumb. Work. Right. What's that supposed to mean? I'm always busy with my business trips. By the way, did you attend the graduation ceremony as planned? Yes. Next, it's time for me and Emily to graduate from you. Huh? What are you? Did you have fun? Your trip with your junior colleague? Mary, was it? What are you talking about? Then explain what this is about. Upon sending the evidence photos from the detective via iMessage, my husband became visibly shaken and struggled to find his words. Why would you secretly take photos like this? Are you a stalker? That's disgusting. Getting involved with women at work is far more disgusting. What? It's your fault for being unattractive as a woman. What? You're trying to say it's my fault? You've been lazing around all day doing nothing. Is your only accomplishment hiring a detective to gather evidence behind my back? Where am I supposed to find desire for a woman like that? Wasn't it you who asked me to be a stay-at-home mom when we got married? I didn't expect you to become such an ugly pig. It's my one miscalculation. Ugh, what a mistake. I vented my rage at him without holding back. By the way, make sure to submit those divorce papers, all right? Oh, and I'll be properly claiming alimony as well as child support, so be prepared for that. Wait a minute. Emily is my child. Are you planning to take her without my permission? Yes. Emily made her own decision. She wants to be with me, not you. No way. I'm the one who shares blood with Emily. There's no way she'd choose a stranger like you. The moment I heard those words, my patience snapped. Huh? Who's talking? Who decided to go on a trip with a mistress instead of attending his dear daughter's graduation ceremony? You should be embarrassed. You. How dare you go that far? Being married to someone like you is nothing but a dark chapter of my life. Our marriage is over. Emily and I are going to live together, never show up in front of us again. My daughter gently rubs my back, giving me strength after my impassioned outburst. She then snatches the phone to speak her piece to her father. Hello, Dad? Emily, what the hell are you? From now on, I'll live with Mom. Don't bother us again. You? Who do you think you're talking to? I'm your only biological family, you know. Then she coldly retorts, Family? You betrayed me and Mom, and you call that family? Don't make me laugh. Blood ties mean nothing. I have decided to believe in my mom, who truly loves me. You're the lowest of the low. Having affairs while being married? Disgusting. You're no longer a father in my eyes. With that, she hung up the phone. With a deep sigh of relief, she stretched her body wide and beamed with a smile of pure joy. Seeing her like this somehow lightened my heart, too. With sufficient evidence of his infidelity, I was able to quickly divorce him. Emily strongly wished for me to have her custody, and so I did. Through a lawyer, I demanded compensation from his mistress and also made sure he paid alimony in addition to that. Chan's mistress was outraged at being sued and immediately broke up with him. Moreover, as she spread the story of their breakup at work, his reputation plummeted. News of his affair and abandonment by his daughter quickly spread throughout the company. Apparently, John got dumped by his wife for having an affair with a junior colleague. LOL. Didn't he have a daughter? Man, that's really low. To be abandoned by your own daughter? That's a major oof. LOL. When the company investigated the rumors, his misdeeds came to light one after another. He had been taking his mistress on business trips and inflating his expense claims. He was promptly fired and ordered to pay back all the fraudulent travel expenses. Having lost everything, he moved into a cheap apartment and is apparently living a difficult life. There's nobody to lend him a hand, and he'll probably remain lonely and impoverished in the future as well. In contrast to my ex-husband, I am living a remarkably prosperous life. I was able to return to my old job, and my time with my daughter has been fulfilling. On our days off, We go out together and cook meals, enjoying a genuine parent-child bond every day. Hey, Mom, what about having mac and cheese for dinner today? Sounds good. How about we cook together? We'll need to go shopping too. Oh, and let's stop by the new cafe that just opened up. All right, let's get ready then. I no longer have any worries. I intend to continue walking hand in hand with the daughter who chose me.
My name is Chloe, and I'm 44 years old. I'm about to share a pivotal, rather dramatic moment in my life, and I'd like you to listen in. When I was 25, I met and married Ethan, a hardworking businessman, thanks to a mutual acquaintance. I'd always hoped to become a full-time homemaker after our marriage, but given the economic downturn, that plan didn't pan out. Instead, I continued to work at the salon where I'd been employed for a while, leveraging maternity and postpartum leaves to welcome and nurture our daughter, Isabella. Up until this point, we had an ordinary family life, like everyone else. In retrospect, as a first-time mom, there were days that felt exhausting. Yet, each day brought along a new joy. Isabella was so adorable, and Ethan was incredibly sweet. Our family didn't experience the typical mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflicts. On the contrary, my in-laws showered Isabella with so much love and even helped us with her upbringing. So, I don't recall ever feeling overwhelmed. Surrounded by kind people, I thought we were living a calm and peaceful life. By the time Isabella turned 10, Ethan and I had become a pretty solid, well-settled couple. The lovey-dovey phase was fading, but that didn't worry me. Let's admit it. I saw it as natural evolution of our relationship, something every couple goes through. Ethan, ever the kind-hearted man, would pick me up from work whenever our schedules aligned. So, the thought of our love cooling off never crossed my mind. There was no room for anxiety, until one unexpected day. Ethan was off work, so I borrowed our car for a shopping run. As I slid into the driver's seat and adjusted the side mirror to suit my view, something glittery at my feet caught my attention. Picking it up, I realized it was a dangly earring. Obviously, designed for women. For the record, I don't wear earrings. I can't because I have allergies. Wait, if this isn't mine, whose is it? My mind was instantly flooded with question marks. And the most direct answer it could muster was infidelity. No. Cheaters don't get caught this easily, right? Still, I decided to confront Ethan nonchalantly, showing him the earring I'd found in the car. He looked startled for a moment. Then he quickly recovered, saying, oh yes, I gave one of my colleagues a ride the other day. It must be hers. What's the reaction now? But did he just almost say mine? No way, right? I was unsure whether to press further. I had a nagging feeling of unease, but part of me wanted to erase my unwelcome thoughts. Most importantly, Isabella was with us. I didn't want to risk a confrontation that could potentially confirm Ethan's infidelity and hurt our daughter. So, I chose to let it slide for the time being. A few days later, on a particularly stormy night, Ethan had to attend a business dinner. He called to let me know he probably wouldn't make it home. In this weather, are you sure you'll be okay? Don't catch a cold. I couldn't help but express my concern. Ethan is prone to catching colds, so I knew it must be an important event to drag him out on a night like this. Yeah, I'll be fine. Thanks. But just as he finished, a shrill, sweet voice echoed from the other end of the phone. Ethan, are you still on the phone? I couldn't help but ask again. Huh? No, I told you, I'm on a call. Ethan tries to justify himself while stopping me. What just happened there? You got called by your first name? Well, it's one of our clients. You know how bosses love to call you by your first name. You know what I mean? That sounds like an excuse to me. I do have a manager at another store who calls out to me, "Hey Chloe." I guess there are a good number of bosses who prefer to use first names, regardless of gender. But there is something off about the tone of his voice that makes me suspicious. I mutter, without realizing. Perhaps, scared of being questioned further, Ethan quickly hangs up the call. I'm off for an entertaining night with clients. Gotta go. The last time, I found a piece of jewelry that wasn't mine. This time, the smell of infidelity seems to be getting stronger. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt, but without any solid evidence, I don't truly feel like he's cheating on me. All I feel is a formless, nagging doubt growing within me. The next morning, Ethan returns home and starts talking about his difficult night, even though I didn't ask. But if you listen closely, he keeps repeating words like forceful, already settled, and wanted to go home early. The common theme seems to be that he didn't really want to go in the first place. That just makes it all the more suspicious. So, you're not cheating on me, right? Just kidding. I was about to follow up with a laugh and say, just kidding, of course you're not. But then I saw Ethan's face and fell silent. He was pale as a ghost. I'd never seen anyone turn that pale before. So that's what it looks like when someone turns blue, I thought to myself. No, of course not. There's no way I would ever do something like that. His words don't match the color of his face. While his expressions might be able to lie, his complexion doesn't. Now, he's a prime suspect. What an awful joke I've made. I screwed up. Trying to hide the tears welling up in my eyes, I turned my back on Ethan. Come on, go take a bath. It's your day off. You should take it easy. I left the room with my best attempt at a cheery voice. Then I cried alone. His bad lying made the whole thing seem unreal until now. I kept thinking, there's no concrete evidence anyway, but the suspicion is very real. There's still no evidence, nothing has really changed, but his reaction, there's no mistaking it. You don't even need intuition to see it. What am I supposed to do from here? Should I find evidence and file for divorce? What about our daughter, Isabella? Can I raise her alone? I still love Ethan after everything. I couldn't make up my mind, so I decided to think more about what I really want. And so, with no answer in sight, Isabella started her summer break. I thought it would be just like any other summer, but it wasn't. Ethan kept insisting on taking Isabella to his parents' house. He usually doesn't want to go because it's a hassle, and since it's just in the next town, we can go anytime. And during summer break, I'm usually busy with work. When we visit his parents, we usually stay for a few days. Even though they are close by, the time Isabella can spend with her grandparents is limited. But I can't take consecutive days off during this period. Does he know that and still ask anyway? As I ponder it, I remembered that this summer was different from all the rest. Right, Ethan is having an affair. Could he possibly be using the trip home as an excuse to do something? If I'm lucky, could I obtain evidence of his affair? With these thoughts in mind, and feeling that I couldn't decide my course of action without proof, I allowed Isabella and Ethan to make the trip home together. The day they left, Ethan, grinning more than usual, said, "We're off," as he drove Isabella to his parents' house. That's suspicious. He usually seems so much more bothered. But with no idea of what might actually happen, and the distance to his parents' house being a significant obstacle, obtaining evidence wasn't going to be easy. After sending them off, I rummaged around the house but found nothing. I knew it wouldn't be that simple. As I was exchanging voice messages with Isabella via the GPS, I was about to give up on finding any proof. The next day, after searching all night for evidence and not finding any, I went to work with a tired face from the lack of sleep. Everyone was worried about me, but I brushed them off with a laugh, saying, "The heat kept me awake." As I exchanged messages with Isabella during my work breaks, I was expecting another fruitless day. But then I noticed something odd. Although Isabella was supposed to be at her in-laws, the GPS was acting strangely. It was moving. Sure, she might go somewhere, but the GPS showed Isabella heading towards a street lined with pubs. I had a bad feeling about this. In a rush, I told my manager, "I'm not feeling well," and decided to leave work early. While I was doing that, the GPS stopped at a shop in the city. The name of the shop was Amore Club, Love and Me. This is a romantic hotel. Isabella brought the GPS to a hotel? What? I was confused. What if she was involved in some kind of trouble? Isabella hadn't responded to the messages I had sent her yet, so in a panic, I called Ethan's parents' house. "Hello, I'm sorry for the sudden call. Is Isabella there?" I didn't know if Ethan's mother, father, or even Ethan himself had answered the phone. "Chloe, Isabella just left with my son to go play. What's the matter? You sound so panicked." The person on the other end was Ethan's father. Hearing that Ethan and Isabella had left together, I felt a wave of relief. I'm glad she's safe. But as soon as the relief washed over me, a question popped up in my mind. Why is Ethan at a hotel with Isabella? Could this be the evidence I've been looking for? Just as I was thinking this, I got a reply from Isabella on the GPS. I told Ethan's father, "Can I call you back later?" and abruptly ended the call. Then I quickly responded to Isabella. "What are you doing now?" "I'm waiting in the car for Dad." I checked the GPS location again in case I was mistaken. It's still the hotel. No matter how many times I look, it's the hotel. Did he just abandon Isabella in the parking lot of the hotel? I felt myself losing control. More than having definite proof of the affair, the fact that he brought Isabella to such a place was unbearable. Ethan's father had said that Ethan took Isabella out saying he was going to have some fun. So he was using Isabella as a cover-up. I can't believe how foolish he's been. This definitely calls for, no, needs a consequence. I messaged Isabella. "Mommy is coming to join you there." Then I called my father-in-law back and told him everything. He adores Isabella and was furious. Just hearing Ethan seems to be at the hotel with Isabella, he blurted out, "What on earth is he doing?" Thinking about her father and his mistress at a hotel. If Isabella understood what that meant, she'd definitely be upset. Before Isabella realized anything, my in-laws and I decided to remove her from the situation. Luckily, the hotel was near a station, so I hopped on the train while my in-laws drove there. As we entered the hotel's parking lot, sure enough, our car was parked. Isabella, who knew we were coming, was innocently waving from inside the car. I quickly unlocked the car with my spare key and hugged Isabella. "I'm sorry for leaving you alone here." "But I'm not alone. Daddy's just late." Isabella pouted. Promising a fun day out and then making her wait in the parking lot wasn't right. It was awful. Mommy will make sure he pays for it. I didn't say it out loud, but I promised Isabella. For now, I convinced Isabella to go home with my in-laws. I wanted to get her away from there as soon as possible, so the teamwork with my in-laws was appreciated. Then I climbed into the driver's seat of Ethan's car and waited. Of course, just waiting wasn't fun at all. I figured they were in the middle of it, so I called Ethan on purpose to disturb them. "Hello, is that you?" I intentionally used a laid-back tone to gauge Ethan's situation. Hey, I'm driving right now. Don't call me out of the blue. Call me later. Oh, your car's right here? What exactly are you driving, I wonder? I couldn't help but chuckle. Oh, okay, gotcha. Your parents will be there to pick her up soon. Just letting you know. What? Of course, it was a lie. Because my in-laws had just left. Knowing he was having fun in the hotel room made me so mad. I thought this was the best way to wrap it up quickly. I hung up, and not long after, Ethan rushed out to the parking lot, with a woman trailing behind him, her hair all messed up. They seemed to be in a bit of squabble. Well, that makes sense. He probably intended to be in the room for at least 3 hours. My call likely forced him to interrupt his rendezvous, and he had to rush out of the room. Or rather, he absolutely had to. As Ethan approached the car, his shirt buttons were haphazardly fastened. Was he planning to meet my in-laws looking like that? Isabella would surely be surprised. The woman seemed furious, and I started to think that this might be the end of their affair. Moreover, I could be imagining it. But the woman looked a bit like me from the past. Well, interesting choice for an affair, a woman of a similar type. The whole situation was starting to amuse me, so I waited in the car, grinning as I met Ethan's eyes. When Ethan noticed me, he was taken aback for a moment. Then, his mouth began to open and close like a goldfish out of water. "I'm here to pick you up, dear," I called, swinging the car door open with a smile. Ethan stared at me in surprise, raising his hand as if on autopilot. I had to chuckle. It was just like a dog sitting or drooling at the sight of a treat. Pavlov's dog, classic conditioned response. The woman next to him turned from furious red to terrified pale and scurried off. Poor thing, left all alone, I thought. Why, huh? What? Wait! Ethan stammered, pointing at me and repeating his surprise. I didn't respond, simply returning his shock with a smile. He remained frozen even when I started the car. No objections then. Well, you can walk home then, I'm going ahead, I declared and drove off. A guy who abandons Isabella in the parking lot deserves the same. Serves you right. Think about what you've done. I saw Ethan chasing the car in the rearview mirror, but I didn't slow down. His lover seemed to have left already, leaving no one to rescue him. Now, I guess I'll just wait for you back at home. Driving back to my in-laws, the whole situation seemed amusing. My mother-in-law was playing with Isabella when I arrived. My father-in-law looked positively livid, veins popping on his forehead. This place is hell, I thought as Ethan finally trudged home. It had taken him 5 hours to walk back from the hotel, a distance that should have taken about 2. He must have really dreaded coming back. I'm home. Ethan mumbled as he timidly stepped inside. My father-in-law shot him at a fierce glare. Who the hell are you? You don't have permission to enter. Get out! Wait! Dad, please! Before Ethan could finish his plea, my father-in-law yanked his arm so hard I thought his shoulder might dislocate and throw him. I felt grateful for my father-in-law in that moment. Ethan always said that his father was scary when angry, so I knew this would have a greater impact than on my own anger. Hand over the car keys. Ethan, completely bewildered, handed over the keys. My father-in-law began his interrogation. Where were you today, leaving Isabella behind? I'm asking you, where were you? At a hotel. He couldn't even stand up. I know that already. With whom were you? Don't tell me you were alone. Speak up. If you lie, I'll leave you out there all night. My father-in-law is not one to make empty threats. He took the keys so Ethan couldn't escape in the car. Sweat began to pour from Ethan. Thought it wasn't particularly hot. Cold sweat, I suppose. She's a temp at the office. Ethan mumbled, then fell silent. Speak up. If I have to keep asking you, I'll throw you out. Terrified, I thought, but I was smiling behind my father-in-law. In a whimpering voice, Ethan started to confess. He said he found the temp cute and just wanted to chat a little. But she was much more receptive than he expected, and before he knew it, they were involved. Flattered by the attention of a younger woman, he got carried away and lost control of the situation. Ethan spilled his guts, every last detail. I have to admit, I was somewhat pleased when he said, I found the temp attractive. Probably because she reminded me of myself. I felt like it was a roundabout compliment. But that doesn't mean I'm about to forgive him. I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do. I understand. Call her now. Tell her it's over. With his back against the wall, Ethan did as he was told and dialed her number. Hey, it's me. I'm sorry about, the lunch. The moment the call connected, Ethan stuttered, unsure of how to start the conversation. But then a voice roared through the phone. I've had enough of you. And there was a beep beep of disconnection. She just broke up with me. I thought to myself, you didn't break up with her, she dumped you. Poor Ethan. You didn't initiate the breakup, it was because you lacked sincerity. You are truly indecisive. My father-in-law scolded Ethan, making him shrink even more. Do you realize how bad you've been to Chloe and Isabella? When he yelled this, Ethan finally responded loudly. Of course I do. I want to strip this guy naked and throw him out, but what does Chloe want? Caught off guard by the question, I took a moment to think. Honestly, I didn't want to break up. I believe I can live happily with just Isabella and me, but I do love Ethan. The only other thing that came to mind was that I never want him to cheat again. Divorce. The moment I muttered the word, Ethan jolted, his shoulders shaking. Please, anything but divorce. I was wrong. I betrayed you and Isabella. I was the worst. Well, he's not wrong there. He's just stating the obvious. Thought it did amuse me slightly. He repeated, I'm so sorry, again and again, offering a deep apology. His face was hidden as he bowed low to the floor, but I could tell from his voice he was sobbing. I'll never cheat again, he pleaded, to which I finally replied. Sign the divorce papers. I'll keep them. Depending on your behavior, I can file them at any moment. At my words, Ethan lifted his head, perhaps thinking he had dodged a bullet. And you are on an allowance from now on. Only enough for lunch, and you'll do the housework. Ethan's face, which had momentarily brightened, dimmed slightly. Also, we are putting GPS on your phone, and you're not allowed to go out alone with Isabella. Either I or your father will accompany you. I continued laying out the terms. Go immediately when I ask you to shop. Fulfill all my requests. Oh yes, when I say housework, I mean everything from taking out the trash in the morning, shopping, cleaning, preparing dinner, to doing the laundry for the next morning. It's an all-day task. In other words, he'd have to become our own personal errand boy. There's no dignity as a husband or a father in that. If that's okay with you, then I won't divorce you. But remember, This isn't valid if I'm upset. I can't believe the audacity of what I'm saying. I'm basically telling him to keep me pleased all the time. But in the end, he's the one at fault. This much should be permissible. If he's busy, he won't have the time or the mind to cheat, right? Ethan, with a tearful expression, agreed, saying, "I'm fine with that." Immediately, my father-in-law interjected, "Not I'm fine with that, but thank you for going that far for me, right?" As advised, Ethan corrected himself. It seemed like I had completely exploited his weakness and didn't allow him any say. 6 years have passed since then. I still keep the divorce papers locked in a drawer, out of Ethan's reach. Ethan doesn't seem to be showing any signs of cheating either. Rather than trying to keep me happy, it seems to have become a natural part of him. No wonder our teenager daughter, Isabella, still mocks him, saying, "Your actions back then were just unthinkable." Ethan seemed to find being disliked by Isabella several times more painful than being scolded by my father-in-law or me. As Isabella grew, his determination to be a better husband became more and more apparent. Thanks to that, I'm happy. Don't misunderstand. It's not that I have forgiven Ethan for his one-time mistake. The agreement I made with Ethan at that time, to not divorce him, was to protect my own happiness. My ultimate goal was for the three of us in this family to live harmoniously. Even if Ethan had wanted to break up, the conclusion would have been the same. I had no intention to divorce, even if it meant binding a resistant Ethan. However, as long as he fears being served divorce papers, I suppose it's okay to think that we're in love. Now, Ethan cherishes our family, not because he's bound to me, but of his own accord. That's why this story is about the most challenging time in my life. Looking at my family now, I can confidently say that such a thing will never happen again. As evidence, I'm very happy now. I want everyone listening to this to know, don't think you can easily destroy the family I've built. Even if the world turns upside down, I won't let go of Ethan, just so you know.
I want a divorce. What? On the day I turned 40, my husband suddenly brought up the subject of divorce. Apparently, he no longer sees me as a woman. To bring up divorce on our anniversary of all days. I cried at the cruel reality. But this divorce turmoil would steer things in an unexpected direction. My name is Rachel. I've been married to my husband Luke for 5 years, and he's 10 years younger than me. We met when I was 35. I was pursued intensely by Luke, who was only 25 at the time. I did have feelings for him, but I was also nervous about starting a relationship. That nervousness was about our age difference. Being 10 years older than him, I could never fully gain confidence in myself. I felt older compared to his friends and feared that he might get tired of our age difference someday. With those thoughts, I couldn't muster the courage to start dating him. As if he saw through my insecurities, he always had kind words for me. "I truly want to marry you, Rachel. Would you consider it?" "I'm flattered, but I'm 10 years older than you, Luke. I might not be able to have children." "Even so, I want to be with you, Rachel. Even if we can't have children. As long as you're by my side, that's all that matters to me." "But I'll age faster than you, you know? I'll get wrinkles and age spots much sooner. I might even become unable to walk." "I don't care about any of that. No matter how old you get, I'll love you forever." With those words, he held me close. In that moment, I could feel the anxieties within me evaporate. Instead of using my lack of confidence as an excuse, I decided to trust him. That's when I accepted his proposal, and we became officially married. We essentially had a whirlwind marriage, but I never regretted it. From then on, it was a daily effort. Although I was definitely older than when we first met, I kept my figure by jogging daily and paid special attention to my skincare. All of this was for my husband. I did it so that he, being younger, would never feel embarrassed to be with me. With that sole intention, I've been putting in my efforts. Time flew, and today is our 5th wedding anniversary. It also happens to be my 40th birthday. When I came home from work with the cake, my husband was already there. "I'm home. I brought cake." "Hey, can you sit down? I have something to talk about." "Huh? What?" "Something to talk about? Are we going on a trip or something?" But Luke's expression seems gloomy. Feeling a bit anxious, I sat down in front of him as he asked, "What's this about?" I asked, and my husband quietly opened his mouth. "I want a divorce." "What?" I couldn't believe my own ears. Divorce? This must be a joke, right? Today is our 5th wedding anniversary. Divorce? Such a thing. I continued to question his unbelievable statement in my mind. Then, with trembling fear, I finally spoke. Are you joking about divorce? Because if this is a joke, I'm not laughing." "Do you think I would joke about something like this?" Luke replied, a grim look on his face. "I can't handle being married to you anymore, Rachel, so I want a divorce." "But why? We've never had a big fight. Why suddenly divorce?" "I found someone else I like." "What do you mean? Are you saying you're cheating on me?" "Cheating? No, I'm serious. She's the only one I love right now." "I can't believe this. How could you do something so cruel?" As I confronted him through my tears, Luke casually said, "Because of your age." "Because of my age? What kind of reason is that?" "It's a reasonable one, isn't it? You're 40 now. No different from any other old lady." "What? That's cruel. How can you say something like that so easily?" "Huh? Just so you know, the reason I cheated is because of you." "Because of me? What did I do?" With a deep sigh, Luke delivered the unreasonable reason for divorce. "Listen, put yourself in my shoes for a second. Do you have any idea how embarrassing it is to be seen with an old, increasingly ugly woman?" "Ugly? I've been working hard every day so that you wouldn't feel embarrassed, Luke." "Hard work? Ha!" Luke scoffed. "Ridiculous. Do you really think a near-menopausal hag working hard will make a difference? And do you think there's a man who wants to be with a woman whose charm has worn off? The moment a woman loses her youth, it's game over, idiot." I can't believe. "The reason I had to cheat is because of you, aging and becoming ugly. It's not my fault at all. If you're going to hold a grudge, hold it against yourself." After that, Luke continued to berate me as if justifying his own infidelity. I can't wait to be with her. Accept the divorce already, and let me make it clear. There's no way I'll ever love you again. Don't think you can stay as my wife forever with your ugliness. If you insist, why not go get some anti-aging plastic surgery?" He kept blaming me for his infidelity, incessantly insisting that it was my fault for growing old and becoming ugly. Because of our age difference, because I was aging, he hurled every insult imaginable at me, and my spirit dwindled day by day. Looking visibly emaciated and my mind spiraling, my younger husband sneered. In a normal case, I should be suing my husband and his mistress for emotional distress, but I just don't have the strength for that now. As a result of the constant manipulation by my husband, I didn't even claim any compensation before finally accepting a divorce from him. Some might think I should have confided in someone, but who could say we were divorced because I was ugly? I was so crushed by my feelings of inferiority. In the end, I told my family and friends that we divorced because we couldn't have children. Ever since, I stopped going to work and shut myself in at my parents' house. I didn't go out, and I only spoke to my parents minimally. Having lost confidence in myself, I wanted to cut off any connection with the outside world. Seeing me like this, my mother took me to a well-known psychiatrist. When my name was called and I entered the room, the doctor looked at me wide-eyed. "Huh? Is it really Rachel? Rachel Smith, right? Huh? Do you remember me? We were in the same class in junior high. It's me, Taylor." "What? No way." "That, Taylor?" The man standing there was Taylor Miller, my classmate from junior high. He was never the type to stand out, but even back then, he was excellent, and his calmness and sincerity gave him a somewhat mature air. "Taylor, you've become a doctor. I'm so surprised." "No, I'm the one who's surprised. I never thought I'd run into you here, Rachel. You're as beautiful as ever." "What?" His casual comment made me blush instantly. Feeling embarrassed at flattering myself with his compliment, I quickly denied it. "Stop with the flattery. My husband called me old and ugly before he left me. So that's what happened. Is that why you're here today? Well, that is... It's okay. I'll listen to everything. Can you talk to me about it? Looking at his gentle smile, tears well up in my eyes. I nodded silently and slowly began to recount what had happened. My husband called me ugly and left me, even though he promised he'd love me forever. I see. That must have been tough. Yeah, it was tough. I felt like my whole self had been denied. Each time I opened my mouth, tears spilled out, and I couldn't speak properly. Still, he listened to my story to the end. As a doctor, thank you for talking to me. You really did your best, Rachel. I could finally share these painful feelings with someone. Feeling relieved, all the emotions I had been holding back came pouring out at once. Since the divorce, I cried out loud for the first time. I had always wanted to confide in someone like this. I wanted help, and he was the one who saved me. In the end, he looked straight at me and said, "It's okay. You're beautiful, Rachel. You were back then, and you are now. So I want you to have more confidence in yourself." Taylor, I could feel the negative emotions that had frozen in my chest slowly melting away with his words. I felt the weight I had been carrying lighten considerably. 2 years later, as I was walking in the town, I noticed a figure approaching me. When I looked up, it was my ex-husband. "Rachel, long time no see." Yes, it's been a while." We exchanged formal greetings, and just as I was about to say, "Well then," and leave, he grabbed my arm tightly. He noticed the ring on my ring finger and made a mock surprised face. "Whoa, that's scary. That ring? It's way too much." "Ring? What's so scary about it?" "No way. The one on your ring finger. It's the wedding ring I gave you, isn't it?" "Huh? Do you still have feelings for me or something, since you're still wearing it? I'm shocked. It's a good thing I divorced an old lady like you." Huh. In that moment, my fading resentment towards him resurged. I sternly spoke to my ex-husband, who was getting all excited on his own. "What are you misunderstanding? This isn't the ring you gave me." "What?" "This is a ring I received from my current husband. I threw away the ring you gave me a long time ago." You threw it away? And what do you mean by current husband? Don't tell me." "Yes, I remarried." You remarried? An old lady like you?" "Yes, I had remarried. As you might guess, it's to Taylor. Since the day I visited his clinic, we started seeing each other. We went out to eat together, went to various places, and he proposed to me with marriage in mind. I had just had a wedding ceremony the other day, and I was finally able to find true happiness. Whether he didn't like that fact or not, my ex-husband started hurling insults at me again like he used to. You remarried? That's a lie. You're already 42, right? There's no way an old hag like you could remarry. Think what you want. My current husband is not like you. He's a wonderful person who doesn't look down on people." "Ha! I bet he's just some bum, right? He probably couldn't get married and was struggling, so he targeted an old hag like you." To him, who was mercilessly laughing, I told the truth. He's not a bum. He's a doctor with his own practice. A doctor with his own practice? Do you understand? He's a doctor. A doctor? You remarried a doctor? He probably couldn't stand the fact that I had remarried someone better than him. Trembling, my ex-husband was shouting, "It's a lie. It's impossible." I was completely done with him, who could only despise and not acknowledge other people's happiness. I want to say thank you. Thank you for divorcing me. What do you mean? I really am grateful. Thanks to you dumping me, I was able to marry my current husband. I was able to break up with a terrible man like you and get the best life with a superior husband. I can't thank you enough. You. My ex-husband was about to attack me with an intense momentum. I stared at him sharply and continued speaking. "I'm really glad I got to meet you here today. I've always wanted to see you." "Huh? Me?" Misunderstanding something, Luke quickly changed his attitude and flashed a full-faced smile. "You wanted to see me. Do you still like me? You can't forget about me, even with your husband around, can you?" "Well, I can't forget. In fact, I've been thinking of coming to see you myself." "Just as I thought. You know, I've been reconsidering my preferences too. I'd rather have a mature woman like Rachel than a younger one. If you insist, I might even consider getting back together." As he said this, he reached out to touch my shoulder. I quickly brushed off his hand and replied with a stern voice, "Get back together? You must be joking. That's the last thing I want. But you said you wanted to see me. Yes, I wanted to see you, but not to get back together. To demand alimony." Alimony? Yes, I was too emotionally distressed at the time to think about it, but looking back, infidelity is unforgivable, isn't it? We still have a few months left to claim alimony, so I will. Luke's face quickly turned pale, and cold sweat streamed down his cheeks. Wait a minute. I'm your ex-husband, and now you're doing this to me? After all this time? That's awful. Huh? What's wrong with exercising my rights? You're the one who cheated, right? You can't just have all the goods for yourself. Do you know how much you hurt me? Calm down. I realize now that I should have chosen you. Huh? I didn't ask for your opinion. I don't care what a piece of trash like you thinks. I'm warning you. I won't let you be happy. I'll make sure you pay the alimony, even if I have to drag you through hell. What? Seeing his ex-wife again, Luke's future took an unexpected turn. As he sank to the ground, I said, "Goodbye. I'll contact you later." Wait! Rachel! Wait! Don't ever call my name again. And never show up in front of me again. This can't be. Ignoring Luke, who was slumped over, I left the scene. I haven't seen him since. After that, I hired a lawyer my husband introduced me to and claimed alimony from Luke and his mistress. After divorcing me, Luke was dumped by his mistress and lost his job. He's currently living hand to mouth, working part-time in construction. Naturally, he can't afford to pay the alimony in one lump sum. After discussing it with my lawyer, we decided to deduct a fixed amount from his monthly wages. His already precarious living situation will probably become even more difficult due to the alimony deductions. Luke begged the lawyer to get back together and at least reduce the alimony, but I ignored him and continued to demand the full amount. He's the kind of person who used to look down on and insult others for fun. He deserves this kind of retribution. I'm determined to push him until he finishes paying, by any means necessary. On the other hand, I'm living happily with my current husband. We're the same age, so there's no belittling each other, and I don't feel inferior. Rachel, you look beautiful today. Stop it. But thank you. No, it's the truth. I can't thank my husband enough for saving me. From now on, I'll live confidently for him.